So I thought I'd found an interesting new watch brand on AliExpress. I was just browsing online, saw this watch which I thought looked really good, reverse image searched it, and couldn't find anything anywhere. Seemed to be at least a semi-original design, and it had no branding on it, couldn't see any branding in the listing either. So it seemed to be some fresh, unknown brand that hadn't really worked out their branding yet. And it finally arrived with a couple of other watches that I bought. And when I slit open the packaging, I caught a peek of something which certainly changed things a little bit. Now, I haven't actually looked at the watch yet, but I will show you what I saw, and we'll delve into it. Now, what I saw was that. There we go. And here it is. You may be able to see that under the packaging there. It says Parnis. Now, Parnis is a brand that I am aware of and have tried before, but the AliExpress listing didn't show that anywhere, really. It's not even in the seller's name. So I'll link the exact listing I got this one from in the video description if you do want to check it out for yourself. And this one's just got a really neat Bauhaus looking design. And it does look like a bunch of other sector dial watches that I have looked at from the likes of Merkur, for instance. They've got a fairly similar one to this. Well, this one really looked great in its own regard. Now, I paid about £80 for this, so really not much for an automatic watch, especially not an automatic watch that looks like this. You can see what I mean about the design on this one. Just have a pretty empty looking design, but someone consider that very geometrically neat. It is pretty attractive. Unusual selection of textures as well. The outer ring has like a circular brushed section, and the inner portion is completely matte, which does give it a pretty unique look in different lights. Now, this one does come in a bunch of other colours too. The pink was quite tempting, but I really wanted to try a white watch because I thought this looked quite good for more of a white dial watch, and they're pretty hard to come by. Now, one thing that Parnis has done in the past is make some insane value watches that weren't all copies, and this could be another one. Let me know in the comments if you think this is a one-to-one clone of anything. It does potentially look like it could be some sort of remake of a vintage watch or something, as it's got some retro vibes about it. But as for the build, I mean, this thing is stellar, really stellar. Very, very good case finishing. You can see the polishing on the bezel there, and it's extremely thin. Not sure what movement this one is using. I will take a look at that in a moment. Looks like it might be some sort of Chinese movement. But aside from that, the case is really, really good. Sizing is nice too. It's fairly compact, and just like with some of the other Parnis watches in years gone by, strap is really good for the money. Not absolute top tier by any means, but it's a backed strap with some nice edge paint on there. The top feels okay. It does feel like it might scratch a little bit easily, but as a whole, very, very good. Quick release too. And then what appears to be a very well finished buckle. I've never been a fan of these chunkier style buckles. It's even got some fancy finishing there on the buckle. So, yeah, quite impressive. Not sure it entirely matches the theme of the watch, but it is well executed. There's no doubt about that. Let's have a look then. What specs are we supposed to get here? Because I didn't fully look into it. It was a bit of an impulse purchase. So yeah, the movement in here is supposed to be a Seagull ST1701. I think I have looked at that watch once or twice before. It's one of Seagull's automatic movements, as you can tell by the rotor. Don't know the specs off the top of my head on this one. 316L stainless steel case, which is definitely true. I mean, one thing I will say is about that movement, it must be quite thin because this is much thinner than most of the entry-level Miyota or Seiko offerings, so at least it's got that going for it. That's even considering the domed crystal. As for the crystal, it just says here glass, material glass, so yeah, I'm assuming maybe it's just mineral crystal, but we'll get the crystal checker on that in a moment. They're also advertising here 5-bar water resistance rating. It does have a screw back, so that may be true. As for the crown, is that... No, that isn't a screw down, but operates very nicely. And you know what? Given that Parnis is a little bit of an unfortunate sounding brand name, I actually like the fact that it doesn't have it on the dial. I think that's probably the way to go. And something about the way that this watch is with this Art Deco like geometric styling kind of suits not having a logo for once. I wouldn't usually say that. As for the sizing, what do we got here? 38 on the dot again, widthways. These AliExpress sellers do seem to be getting more accurate with their measurements in general. Lug to lug, bit more run of the mill there, 46 millimeters. And with the really domed crystal, 12.5 at the peak, but the majority of this watch is much, much thinner than that, about 9mm. Very thin for an automatic. I'll quickly do a crystal test just before I try it on, and I'll also give you a close-up. So, as our control here, we've got the Ver D5 Pacific, which was my favourite watch of last year, and it's got a really strong, good rating there, showing it is sapphire. If this were sapphire, it would give us a similar rating, but no, yeah, my suspicions were correct. It is just mineral, which is generally okay at that sort of price. This watch, without discounts is about 80 quid. If there is any discount codes I can find for this, I'll leave them in the video description, and I'm fairly sure there will be for this one. So you might be able to get it substantially cheaper than that. One thing it does avoid is all the cloudiness associated with sapphire crystals, especially the cheap sapphire crystals. They do tend to be very hazy, especially with the domed crystals, whereas this does forgo that entirely. Years ago, I would have always just called mineral a straight up disadvantage. And in terms of scratch resistance, it's definitely not as good, but you can view this watch at any angle and not have any troubles. So yeah, really cute bit of kit this. I suspect it would look pretty good in other colours too. And here it is on my 6¼ inch wrist. I have to say, I think this thing is right up my alley. Just looks awesome. Looks kind of like an expensive micro brand watch or something. Very sleek, very thin. And I do like that rather unique colour. It is a bit more of an off-white, this one, rather than the pure white shown in the stock images. So certainly bear that in mind. Has a tiny bit more of a retro vibe than you might originally think. Strap, it's almost a one-to-one with my jumper here. Now, one thing I have noticed is the rotor is quite loud on this, which is no surprise. I'm assuming this is just like a really entry-level seagull movement. I can't quite remember with this. It's not the most commonly found movement. But for around 80 quid, if you use a discount code, it'd probably be 80 quid, even with import fees to most countries. It's actually quite hard to do better than that. And then Parnis has got like some other cheap options too that are actually less than this. I think this is probably still a better buy than those. Definitely nicer executed. You know what? I think this may make it into the collection. Now, does this model even have a model name? Not really. Yeah, it doesn't actually seem to have a model name printed anywhere, but I'll leave a link to where I bought it from in the video description. So if you are interested, at least you'll know you'll get the same thing. It seems like model names just aren't the way that some of these Chinese brands operate. Execution-wise, this is actually really surprisingly good. Had a string of great watches recently from AliExpress. But that was only after a lot of hard looking, I must admit. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments, or maybe you recognise it. It does look like some of the other Longines watches, but I'm pretty sure this is different in several ways. Hopefully it can make my best original designs video, we'll see.